Hi, I'm Beth, creator of dryitcanit.com. Welcome to episode 6 of Fridge Day Friday. That's where I take leftovers out of my refrigerator and try and make something out of them without wasting. So we're supposed to be on vacation right now, but life happens and sometimes vacations get canceled. So didn't have a lot in the refrigerator, kind of ate up most of what was there. But when I looked in the refrigerator this morning, this is what I have. I have a half a can of root beer, which is probably a little bit flat, but a little bit of fizz yet. I have some cheddar cheese, which probably has about 1/3 a cup. And I have a couple of carrots that are definitely past their prime when they're sprouting, but they're not soft, and so I know they're still good. I wouldn't want to use them for canning or dehydrating, but they're still good. So what do I do with carrots, cheddar cheese, and root beer? My first thought was to probably take some chicken and use the root beer for a glaze, and maybe do a potato and use the cheddar cheese, carrots as a side vegetable. But when I checked the freezer, I don't have any chicken. I have some canned chicken, but that's already cooked and that's not going to work. So I'm going to do something totally different, which will probably be the strangest thing I do on this whole series, but I am going to try and make some root beer cupcakes. So stay tuned while I try and gather everything together and we'll get started. I've now more or less assembled my ingredients, and I think I'm going down the path of kind of a carrot cupcake with probably a cream cheese frosting. So we'll see how this works. So here I have some flour, some sugar, some brown sugar, and some spices that you typically might find in a carrot cake, and some baking powder and baking soda, and I've mixed that up. I have here some vanilla, an egg, and some oil. I should have put on my apron, I guess, that I'm just going to mix up like so. And then, because I'm making really a root beer cupcake, instead of using milk, I'm going to use root beer, and we're going to see what happens here. So I'm going to make just a small batch of this because I'm not really sure what to expect. Could be tasty though. So I'm going to add my wet ingredients a little bit at a time, alternating with that and my root beer instead of milk to kind of bring the batter together. And there definitely is still some foam in that root beer because it's foaming as I put this in here. So we'll see what this is going to look like, and I don't know what to expect. My oven is heating at 350, so you might hear that go off before we get done here. And I don't know if I'm going to use all of the root beer that I have left or not. We'll just see what the batter ends up looking like. Looks brown like root beer maybe. Almost looks like root beer and ice cream mixed up. And I don't think I'm going to add any more root beer. And I think we have that good. And then because I'm going down the carrot cake recipe and I had some carrots, I actually grated some carrots. And I have, oh gosh, I don't know, probably a little bit more than 1/2 a cup here. And I guess I'm just going to add the whole thing. So I just finally shredded the carrots, and I'm going to put that in there. Get the rest of those out of here. So this could be a very interesting experiment, but it could be really tasty too. Sometimes you just have to be creative. I just basically found one of my cake recipes and decided to make a half a batch and then add some spices that I might see in a carrot cake. So I've put the batter together. It might be just a little bit looser than what I might normally want, but I think you can see the carrots in there. I took a muffin pan and put some cupcake in there. I'm going to step away and get a scoop for the cupcake, and I'll be right back. All right, so what I'm going to do is basically scoop this batter into the cupcake papers here. And I think I might have made this too wet, so I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm going to fill these full, about 3/4 of the cup full. And I can see I'm going to be making more than 6 cupcakes here. So I am going to continue to fill the pan here until I have my batter gone. Then I'm going to bake these at 350 degrees, and we will see what happens. So I'll be back when these come out of the oven. The cupcakes are done, and it did work to make the cupcakes. They were baked for 18 minutes. I have 7 of them of my regular size, and I apologize, it wasn't real neat with the pan, but they did work, and I tested them with a toothpick. I only had 1 more cupcake paper of the regular size, so I made 7, and then I had 3 smaller cupcake papers, so ended up with 3 smaller ones. So the recipe made You know, with normal cupcake papers, I would say about eight cupcakes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let these completely cool. I'm going to take them out of the pan here in a couple of minutes and put them on a rack to completely cool. I'm going to make a cream cheese frosting to go on top of them because I'm kind of following a cupcake, carrot cake type thing. But my cream cheese frosting is actually going to include the cheddar cheese, which I had put back in the refrigerator. So stay tuned if you want to see the finished product. If this tastes good, I'm actually going to put the recipe online. It'll be in the link below, and we'll see how this turns out. But could be kind of fun, could be kind of interesting. My cupcakes are cooled, so now I'm going to work on the cream cheese frosting. So what I did is I put a block, I think 8 ounces of cream cheese into the mixing bowl, and then I just mixed that just primarily to break it up. So the next thing I'm going to do is just add some powdered sugar to that. And you can use your own cream cheese frosting recipe. This is just one that's pretty simple to use. And I'm going to mix that up. And because I have a little bit of root beer left, instead of adding milk or water to the frosting, I'm just going to add a little bit of the root beer. Now, when you're making cream cheese frosting, a little liquid goes a long way. So I'm going to mix this up, and I'll be back when this is done. I've mixed my root beer, a little bit of it, my cream cheese, and some powdered sugar to a good consistency. Now I'm going to take some cheddar cheese and add it, because that's the whole idea of using the cheese, right? Now that said, I don't think that I'm going to add all of it, but let's mix this up and see what this looks like. So this is definitely a recipe that's a little bit out there, but I think it might turn out to be pretty good. I mean, a root beer cupcake is intriguing, right? And because it has carrots in it, it's like the carrot cake with the spices, and cheese and cream cheese actually go pretty well. So this mixed well. I just want to check the consistency on this. I need just a little bit more powdered sugar to this, and I need to thicken this up just a tiny bit. I can't say that I really taste the root beer yet, but let's see what this turns out to be. So I'll be back in a minute. The frosting's done. I did end up adding a little bit more cheddar cheese and a little bit more powdered sugar to thicken it up a little bit. Texturally, it's really good. The cheese in the frosting is a little bit, I would say, like having frosting with coconut in it. It has the texture as if it was coconut with the cheese, but the cheese and the cream cheese works really well together. Now that said, putting cheese in frosting doesn't mean you have a healthy cupcake, but it's fun. And so I'm frosting a couple of these, and then I want to taste it and see how it is. I think that the lesson here is that sometimes we have to think outside of the box, and we can be creative with how we do things to avoid wasting. And while this is something that is definitely easy to use, probably the root beer could have been just drank. The leftover cheese that I didn't quite use, I'll end up putting on a salad. The carrots I grated, they could have been peeled and probably eaten that way. But sometimes it's fun to just do something a little bit different. Let's see how this is. Normally I would let this frosting set up a little bit, but cupcake-wise, we have a good cupcake. It looks good all the way around. So using the root beer instead of milk worked out well. The frosting, like I said, texturally is like a frosting with coconut in it in terms of the texture. It definitely is a cupcake. Worked, baked all the way through. I baked these for 18 minutes and it worked out perfectly well. So again, this is what we had in the refrigerator. This is what we made. Totally unexpected, but it worked. And look at your refrigerator, see what you can do. Come up with something totally different. But in the meantime, happy canning, happy dehydrating. Don't let the food go to waste. Thanks for watching. See you next week.